Tonight, somewhere in a stadium, a goal is being scored. The net ripples. The crowd explodes. Players sprint toward the corner flag, arms wide, faces electric with joy. And then it stops. Everyone stops. Eyes drift upward to the big screen. And for the next 4 minutes, nobody breathes. That is football in 2026. That is your game. And something about it feels deeply, fundamentally wrong. VAR was supposed to fix everything. It was sold to you as the answer. The technology that would finally end the bad decisions. The missed handballs. The ghost goals. The offside calls that robbed clubs of glory. Referees were human. Technology was not. And so the Football Association, FIFA, UEFA, they all lined up behind a single promise. With VAR, the game would be fair. But here you are, years later, and the game does not feel more fair. It feels slower. It feels colder. And the joy, that raw, uncontrollable explosion of joy that made football the most watched sport on earth, that joy now comes with a delay. So, what went wrong? And why does it feel like no one in charge is willing to admit it? Start with the science of emotion. There is a researcher named Paul Ekman, a psychologist who spent decades studying what happens to the human body during moments of peak emotion. He found that the window of genuine emotional release, the moment when your nervous system floods with dopamine and adrenaline simultaneously, lasts between 3 and 8 seconds. That is your window. 3 to 8 seconds. After that, the emotion either peaks and resolves or it gets interrupted. And when it gets interrupted, something much darker takes over. Anxiety, suspicion, anger. VAR does not resolve in 3 to 8 seconds. VAR takes minutes, which means every single time it triggers, it is not just pausing the celebration. It is hijacking your nervous system and replacing joy with dread. That is not a small thing. That is a fundamental rewiring of what it means to watch football. Think about how you used to experience a goal. It did not matter if you were in the stadium or on your sofa at midnight. The ball hit the net, and something happened inside your chest. You did not choose it. It chose you. Your body responded before your brain could catch up. That involuntary response, that is what makes football different from every other sport. That is what makes it the most watched live event in human history. VAR broke that chain. And the people who designed it knew this was a risk. In 2018, researchers at the Technical University of Munich published a study tracking fan behavior and emotional response during VAR reviews at the World Cup. Their findings were blunt. Goal celebrations interrupted by VAR reviews produced cortisol spikes, the stress hormone, in fans, regardless of whether the decision ultimately stood. The joy had already been contaminated. Even when the goal was given, the fans did not fully recover the emotional high they had been pulled out of. They called it emotional invalidation. And it happens every single weekend, in every league, on every continent where VAR is deployed. Now here's the part that nobody in the boardrooms wants to say out loud. VAR does not actually eliminate error. It redistributes it. Before VAR, referee made a call. It was human. It was instant. Sometimes it was wrong. But it was made in the moment, in the flow of the game, by a person who had trained for years to make exactly that judgment under exactly that pressure. The error, when it happened, felt like fate. It was something that happened to the game from outside. Something you argued about on Monday morning. Something that became part of football folklore. With VAR, the error is still there. But now it belongs to a system. And a system that promises perfection and then delivers imperfection is something far more corrosive than a human referee who gets it wrong. It is a broken promise. And broken promises do not produce anger. They produce distrust. Ask yourself what has changed since VAR was introduced. Not the goals. Not the trophies. Ask about the conversations. Ask what fans talk about now after a match. Before VAR, they talked about the performance, the tactics, the individual brilliance of a player. Now, half of every post-match discussion is about decisions, about lines, about margins, about whether a striker's armpit was 2 centimeters ahead of a defender's shoulder. Your game has been reduced to a geometry problem. There is a concept in sports psychology called flow state, first described by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, a Hungarian-American psychologist who spent his career studying peak human experience. Flow state is what happens when time collapses, when you are so absorbed in what you are witnessing that the outside world ceases to exist. Every great sporting moment lives inside flow state. The reason you remember where you were when a certain goal was scored, that is flow state. It burned the memory into your brain because your entire system was fully present. VAR is a flow state killer. It is architecturally designed to pull you out of the moment. It cannot help but do this. It is a review system. Review means pause. Pause means exit. And once you exit flow state, you cannot simply step back in. You have to rebuild it. And rebuilding it takes time that football, by its very nature, does not give you. The defenders of VAR will tell you accuracy matters more than emotion. They will point to statistics. They will tell you that the percentage of correct decisions has increased. And they're right. On paper, VAR makes football more accurate. But football was never supposed to be accurate. Football was supposed to be alive. There is a deeper problem beneath all of this that almost no one is talking about. The problem is not VAR itself. The problem is that VAR was designed for a version of football that does not exist. It was designed around a rule set, particularly the offside rule, that was written for human perception. The rule was never meant to be applied at millimeter precision. It was written to ask a simple question. Is this player clearly ahead of the last defender? Clearly. That was always the standard. Clearly offside. Not microscopically, technically, semi-transparently offside. When you apply machine-level precision to a human-scale rule, you do not get fairness. You get absurdity. You get goals disallowed because a toenail crossed a line. You get players celebrating with their arms pinned to their bodies to avoid handball calls. You get defenders frozen in position because moving naturally might mean giving away a penalty. The game is being played against the technology now, not with it. In 2023, former FIFA referee Mark Clattenburg gave an interview in which he stated plainly that VAR had created a generation of referees who no longer trust their own judgment. That the psychological safety net of knowing a review was available had actually degraded the quality of on-field officiating. That referees were deferring decisions they would previously have made confidently, knowing that VAR would catch anything they missed. The tool designed to support human judgment was quietly eroding it. And here is the cruelest irony of all. The clubs that suffer most from VAR are not the clubs with the worst luck. They are the clubs with the least power. The clubs with fewer resources to understand how the system works. The clubs without legal teams that study every frame of every review. The clubs whose fans sit farthest from the screen and see the replay last. VAR did not level the playing field. It gave new tools to the clubs that were already winning. You knew something was wrong before you could name it. You felt it the first time a goal you scored. Your team's goal, the goal you had waited the entire first half for, disappeared into a 4-minute review and came back dead. You felt it the first time you watched a player point to their head in celebration, signaling that they had no idea whether it would stand. The players do not trust it. The fans do not trust it. The pundits do not trust it. The only people who publicly defend VAR are the institutions that spent millions installing it and cannot afford to admit the mistake. That is where football is right now, held hostage by a sunk cost. The question is not whether VAR can be improved. Of course it can. Faster reviews, clearer communication, simplified rules. These are not impossible things. The question is whether the people who run football have the courage to admit that something marketed as progress made the experience worse. That accuracy and joy are not the same thing. That a game can be technically correct and emotionally dead at the same time. Football without joy is not football. It is administration. Tonight, somewhere in a stadium, a goal will be scored. The net will ripple. The crowd will explode. Players will sprint toward the corner flag, arms wide. And before the joy completes itself, eyes will drift upward to the screen. And in that pause, in that cold, anxious, breath-held pause, you will feel exactly what VAR has cost you. Not a decision, not a centimeter, not an armpit. You will feel the moment itself, slipping away before it ever fully arrived. Reporting from Final Whistle Africa, I am your host, Ava.